Good morning, Bellows Falls, and welcome to the feed. Here we are, live
Live TV.
from TV from Bellows Falls, Vermont. One of the hazards of live TV is sometimes
It's live.
it's live.
And sometimes things don't work out
Yeah.
exactly as you planned.
So today's show is going to be, we have a guest,
Mm-hmm.
Sara Chard. She's coming on. She's in the green room right now
Getting ready,
preparing.
exactly. Hair and
We
makeup.
had a little technical difficulty, but it's all being smoothed out right now. And as soon as she has hair and makeup, and then
We'll be good to go.
we'll be good to go. And until that time, we're going to have Marty do local events.
Local events. So just reminding everybody that this is the kickoff weekend, the traditional kickoff weekend for Shop Local. So we have Plaid Friday. So instead of leaving right after your Thanksgiving dinner and heading to Walmart and JCPenney and all of those places, stay with your family, enjoy your time, and then go down Friday to downtown Bellows Falls for Plaid Friday.
Yeah.
And I believe some places, actually, if you have plaid on, I believe you can get a discount, I think. Or there's different promotions going
Yeah.
on. And if you miss Plaid Friday, there's Shop Local Saturday. So make sure that you get into downtown Bellows Falls, use your Shop Local card, and support local, because money that you spend locally stays locally.
Yeah. I was a little disappointed to hear that there are quite a few local merchants open on Thanksgiving Day. I know that it's a thing, but it's just sort of, some people I know are working because they have to
it's a
work,
tough
and
one.
it's just
It's a tough
interesting.
one.
Anyway,
Well, welcome, Sarah.
welcome, Sarah.
Hey,
Good to
to
see
be
you.
here.
So we are going to talk about, speaking, this also not only is it the shopping local season, it's also kicks off the season of need.
The season of
need,
giving and the season of need.
It does, yes.
So you have a special little.
Well, let's
need.
step back a step here. Sarah Chard, welcome. Thank you for coming on the
Thank
feed.
you for having me.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then the car, which you have to tell us what it stands for.
So I work for Springfield Turning Point and Greater Falls Connection under a grant that they both got. And I am their recovery outreach coordinator.
Mhm.
So I'm in Bellows Falls doing recovery coaching, and also bringing the idea of recovery to Bellows Falls.
Mhm.
So that's what I do, and I work with people from Phoenix Rise House, doing the program that's called CAR, Community Addiction and Recovery, and helping the community understand recovery, as well as helping the people in recovery with any kind of problems they're having, whether it's getting housing, insurance, transportation. Transportation and housing seem to be their biggest issues.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. Whatever's going on in their lives, kind of trying to get that. We also run a program called FAR, which is Family Addiction and Recovery. And that is for families, but also people in their lives that are addicted or in recovery.
Mhm.
People that they want to help get into recovery, or people that are in recovery and they want to support. So that's been a really, really great program. We've had families that are in it that had just never thought they would get their family member into recovery, that are now in recovery.
And this is such a great new program, because
It's
I
amazing.
think
It's
Mike,
really great.
yeah, Mike Johnson
Yeah.
came on maybe a year and a half ago, and he
Probably.
They've
and
been
he
doing
talked.
that in Springfield for a while.
Yeah.
They originated it. They're the only
Yeah.
ones in the state, and then others have followed this program.
And
it's just
he
such a
talked
cool
about
thing.
expanding programming down to Bellows Falls and the need and everything. And
Yeah.
you're the fruit that's come from
and
that.
I'm hoping to
seed.
expand it further. I live in Wilmington,
Mhm.
so and I know they're having a lot of difficulties. So I would like to just explain the program in other places and
Yeah,
have it
yeah.
go further. There's actually a big grant for all of Wyndham County to figure out what's needed for
Right.
2 years to figure out what's needed, and I would like that to be something that they try to get around the county.
So how did you get started with Mike and then end up in Bellows Falls?
I worked at the Boys and Girls Club
Oh,
when it was open, and it
Mhm.
was literally my favorite job I've ever worked. It was just, I adored it. It was amazing. And I was so connected with the kids here, the community here, that when the forum happened last February that was the importance of hope.
Yes, yeah.
I
we were
came
there.
to that. You guys were there, right? And it blew me away. And I just said, I've got to get back involved in Bellows Falls. And I started volunteering here. Became a member of the COSA team
What's
with the
COSA?
Justice. I can never remember what it stands for.
Community-
There's a lot of acronyms.
I know.
It's confusing.
I know, but it's working with people that have just gotten out of prison. It's a team of people that are community members that work with someone who's just gotten out of prison, and you stay with them for a year, meeting with them on a weekly basis, supporting them, so that you're their normalized support team to help them in any way you can to keep them from committing a crime again, from doing anything that might send them back to jail. And it has the best results of anything for non-recidivisms. So it's it started in Canada, and Vermont was the first state to do it besides Canada, and we're just doing a great job with it.
Sounds like because you get them connected to the community, and I think that's
That's
the key
exactly
with everything
it.
that's happening
That's
from
exactly
Turning
Yeah,
Point,
yeah.
is to make the community connection, to not have them come into a community and feel like the
Yeah, the outlier,
Right.
isolation.
isolation,
Yeah.
because that's what I think isolation can
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the COSA's
exactly.
run out of the
Out of the Justice
Center in
right,
Bellows Falls?
Right.
Yeah.
And they have some wonderful teams, and Mike Malik is really key to that. And he's an amazing person too. So we have so many committed people in this town, and it's just been phenomenal. So
And then, from COSA, you started not branching out, but actually
I've
expanding
always
into
been
other.
involved with the Greater Falls Connections. Since I was at Boys and Girls Club, I worked with Chad Simmons when he was there, and we started the ATI program at Boys and Girls Club. It was in the high schools already, but we brought it to the Boys and Girls
That's
Club.
above the influence for anyone that I know. It's alphabet
There we
soup.
go. Yep.
We have to keep
Above the
everything above the
influence. There we go.
influence.
Yep. So we started that together, and Deb Whitkiss from Greater Falls Connections used to come and cook dinners with me at Boys and Girls Club, so I had a great connection with them. So my children have had substance use disorders, and they're all in recovery right now.
Yeah.
And so I've worked in prevention throughout their entire time that they were using, because I just wanted to make sure that no one else went through what I went through, and that if I could save one kid, it was worth, telling the world about my issues. And so I did that. And so I worked with Greater Falls Connections, I worked with the Brattleboro Prevention Coalition, and so I've stayed in touch. So that's what I did. I came back here to work with them as well as a volunteer, and eventually landed a job working with them, which was great.
And you mentioned in the beginning like a recovery coach. That's kind of a new approach to addiction. So can
It
you expand
is.
a little bit more on what a recovery coach does versus maybe like being an AA sponsor or something like that?
Right. An
what's the
AA
difference?
sponsor really just works on your addiction, and they guide you through the steps, the 12 steps of AA, and in coaching you through that. And they can, if you're making a mistake, they can say, you don't do that. This is what you need to do. A recovery coach is very different. A recovery coach is coaching you through your life, and not coaching you by saying nope, 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 but coaching you through helping you make your own decisions. You can choose any path to recovery, because there are lots and lots of paths to recovery. There's refuge recovery, which is a Buddhist recovery. There's smart recovery, which is a very different kind, and there's AA, and there's so many different choices that people can make. And so a recovery coach helps them find what path might work for them. If you're having trouble with transportation, that's something we can help you with. If you're having trouble with housing, whatever is going to impede your recovery, your recovery coach is there to help you figure that out.
And it's something that, again, was that something that was specifically from Turning Point Center, or is that something that's becoming more of a pattern in the whole recovery world? The idea
It's
that we
in
have
the
to offer
whole recovery world. I think there are people in that are certified mental health workers, that are all kinds of different people that are coming to learn more about recovery coaching, that are learning all the skills of recovery coaching, because they're just really good skills to have.
seems a more broad-based approach. And yes, there's probably as many ways to treat addiction as there are addicts. So while
Exactly.
AA is a very good
Exactly.
program, I know that it sometimes just doesn't, it's too rigid for some people, it just doesn't work. So
Exactly.
to have that option
Yeah.
is nice. And so I'm assuming that with working with these people, that is what kind of brought you to wanting to have reach out to the community
And I'm kind of an abnormality because I'm not in recovery, and there aren't a whole lot of recovery coaches that aren't in recovery,
Mm-hmm.
but the fact that I have my children, I understand what it's like to be, well, everybody's in recovery from
Yeah.
something, quite
Right.
honestly, but I'm not a substance use, I don't have that disorder, but I'm in recovery from over exercising. I have to be really careful because when I would get in these rigid routines and I'd have to do this many more sit-ups this day and run this much further this day. So I can get really obsessive compulsive about
yeah.
things. So I have to be careful about things, just like everybody has to, whether it's eating, whether it's whatever your thing is.
drinking coffee.
Exactly.
I'm just
Watch it there.
I'm just going to throw that one out there.
So, everybody has their thing, and we all have something that we kind of have to be careful of. And so I just, I can relate in my own ways, and everybody, I think, can to a certain
Well,
degree.
I think that's actually kind of a good point to bring up, because that was always my question too about the recovery coaching, because it is kind of intriguing, and I think it's something that sometimes people feel that they want to help, but they feel that they can't help because it's always been kind of a closed community, especially like with AA, that if you're not in recovery, then you can't help someone that's in recovery. So I think the recovery coach model, that's might open up for more people to get involved and more people to become coaches, just because, like yourself, they either have a connection to addiction, not a personal themselves connected, but they have a connection to addiction, and we certainly need it. We certainly need. I'm assuming that you're not going to turn anyone away that would be interested in recovery coaching.
No, I don't think so.
How would they go? I know that there was a recovery coach academy here that happened back. Was it back in
They're
the summer?
fairly regularly. There's one going on around the state probably every month, every other month, somewhere in the state. I know there's one coming to Brattleboro maybe in January, and there's a few going on this month and throughout the state. So I think it's Pear Vermont that is kind of the email, but there's always something going on, and if you call a Turning Point, they will know when the next one would be. Yeah, definitely. And COSA teams are another way to get involved. That's working directly with someone who's been released from jail, but I can't say almost all, but a great percentage of the people that have been released from jail have a substance use disorder of some sort, whether it's alcohol or whether it's a substance. And so to have people on COSA teams who are recovery coaches or have some idea of how to work with addiction is another great thing to have, because it's just the sensitivity to that is huge.
And again, community, the more folks from the community that get involved, the more community-based it becomes, and probably the more likely that person's gonna stay connected.
Yeah.
It's all
Right.
about connection.
And that
It's
was,
really-
well, I guess that was one of the things we talked about in the forum last February, and that I'm so glad to see you here because of that, and Marty has brought it up many times, is that everybody can help, and they just need to figure out their place and use their strength, because everybody needs to help. It's
Yes.
just, this is just
It
such
takes
a,
a community to do anything,
Yeah,
whether it's
yeah.
raise a child or
And-
bring somebody back in or whatever it is.
and the impact is on everyone too.
Oh, it totally
I mean,
is, yeah.
if you think, well, it's not my problem, it is.
It-
I mean, you either know somebody, you work with somebody, or you are paying into insurance and paying taxes that are
Well,
helping people.
even when you
and-
think about the fact that when somebody's out on the street using, they could be robbing your house.
Mhm.
When they go to jail, you're paying the taxes for them to be in jail.
Yeah,
It's so much cheaper to have them healthy and well and, not breaking the law and not going to jail than it is to have them, not well.
Exactly.
So it's better for all of us to work toward having people in recovery.
and then helping helps yourself.
Oh,
It totally
yes,
does.
absolutely. I feel so good when I'm helping
It
someone.
does, it's amazing.
It fills
I
my
know.
soul.
Yeah. So, back to why you're here today, though. We're talking about the community addiction and recovery,
Yeah.
and the program you started, it wasn't that long ago, right? It was this summer. I mean, when you started actually meeting at Parks Place and doing things?
Yeah, we started doing the Far in the Car programs and trying to just bring recovery out into the open and
Mhm.
make recovery something people understand as when you're in recovery, you'll struggle with addiction and substance use disorder and all of that for your entire life, but you can be in recovery and be a perfectly normal human being again and doing your job and doing
Mhm,
everything
mhm.
else that everybody else does and that's a normal citizen.
Right,
And so that's what we're kind of trying to express to people.
yeah.
And so I think sometimes people feel like the Phoenix House, especially in Bellows Falls, can be really a negative thing. And we're trying to make it look a little bit more positive.
Yeah.
And so one of the guys in the house is a veteran. And he's been in other, this is his second time that he's gone through an alcohol relapse. And the first time he was in a house that was only for veterans, somewhere up north. And he said the whole atmosphere of that was so incredibly different, that people would make dinners for them on a regular basis,
Mhm.
for the whole, just bring dinners in for the whole
Because
house.
of the
Because they
Because they were
veterans.
veterans. And if, they were all in some sort of they had alcohol or substance use
Mhm,
disorders, but it was just completely different because they were veterans. And when Christmas came, they were all given gifts, like tons of gifts. In fact,
Mhm.
he said just he alone got $1,300 worth of gift cards.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
got that kind of thing. So I started thinking, well, here these guys come into this place, a lot of them with nothing. The clothes they got out of jail or the clothes they left home or the clothes they left, they have nothing. They don't have a warm jacket, they don't have a pair of boots, they don't have a hat they have nothing when it gets
Mhm.
cold. And I thought, well, the least I can do is ask for used clothing.
Yeah, yeah.
I could ask for used clothing. And so I decided to do that. And so I started this appeal to get some used clothing, warm clothing and outerwear. And so, and it was because of Ryan that I did that. And so far it's been great. I've gotten Sonax is doing
Oh, good.
something with their company. They're asking for
Yeah,
outerwear in November. A warm clothing in November, and then they're going to do outerwear in December.
Mhm.
And St. Charles Church did a coat drive, and they have a box of coats for me to pick up. And so it's been wonderful.
People give if they know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of
Yeah.
what we're here to get the word out about that. And then
Mhm.
there's probably, are there other things that might be needed?
Well, when people, again, when they move out of the Rise house or when they come home from jail, they have nothing for their homes. And so, we're thinking, I don't know where we store furniture, but we're thinking about, small
Mhm,
household goods too.
Mhm.
Anything that's in, good shape that's just basic. We
Like
don't want-
extra dishes, plates, cups,
Exactly,
silverware, that type of stuff.
silverware, measuring cups, whatever's really
Mhm.
basic that they
Mhm.
could start out with would be awesome. And, we'll take that in and store it until they're ready to move, and then they'll
And
have something
do
ready
you
to
have
go.
a drop-off location, or how are you connecting? Like,
we
how
can-
can people connect
They
with you?
can drop it off at Parks Place in my office, or I can go pick it up somewhere. I'm happy to go pick things up too.
Okay.
That's great. How long do people, how long are people in your program then? I mean, what,
Well, they're
And
in
maybe
the
it's
Rise
too early to
House. They're
tell.
in the Rise House for between 3 months and a year.
mhm.
And then it's really difficult to say how long they're with us because they don't stay in town always.
Yeah,
They can
yeah,
move on
yeah.
to where they came from.
Mhm.
Some people move, to Brattleboro or just slightly out of town.
Mhm.
And a lot of them, when they finish Rise, are too busy to stay, or
Sure. they'd be-
or they've
yeah.
gone on to a little bit out of town and they don't stay in that program.
They have a life again.
Exactly.
Yeah, so they're
exactly.
busy,
They've
yeah.
really they've gotten what they needed,
Yeah, yeah.
and they don't need the supports anymore because they've got their whole life back.
Yeah.
So we don't see them anymore. Or unfortunately, some of them have not gotten their life back, and they didn't make it in Rise. But we have some of them that fall out and then come back in, and that's
Yeah.
good too. Because
There's a lot of different stigmas that go on with addiction that are just incredible, that that people expect that once you enter recovery, you're going to recover. And it's like people expecting, if you're gonna, I don't know, many people have smoked in the past, and I know some people, it's more, but if you've ever tried to give up smoking, it's not you don't just give up, you give up smoking and then you start smoking, and you do it and you go, and it's the same thing.
It's a process.
There's no like silver bullet.
Or just
You're
think of a New
gonna
Year's
stop.
resolution.
Yeah.
I'm gonna exercise every day now.
That's even better.
I'm not gonna eat any more sugar.
That lasts for about 2 weeks.
Yes, yeah, exactly, yeah. That's
And
the
it
perfect
doesn't always
example.
happen.
And so we can't hold other people to a higher, oh, this is just because this is this,
Right.
you're
And
gonna-
they have, and we are making those things without having a brain disorder.
Mhm.
Their brains have chemically changed.
Mhm.
And ours haven't necessarily chemically changed. We just don't have the willpower.
It seems to me that the whole, and maybe it's just me because I've become more aware, but the whole field is just blossoming and expanding and is on this ramp, this learning curve that's incredibly steep right now.
It's
there's
amazing.
yeah,
Absolutely amazing. New things seem to come out every day.
yeah.
Every day.
Which is good, but it sort of also speaks to the crisis that we're in, however you want, that people have become mobilized, that it's like,
Yes.
it's killing more
it's
people
pretty
than
amazing.
more.
It's remarkable.
Well, I think
It's
finally
remarkable.
people are realizing the need for it. I think there's a lot of denial
Yeah,
that we need that everything. Oh, we have the right structures in place, and no, I think we had to look outside the box, and that's where recovery coaching comes in, and looking at different approaches and getting families involved too, because
Yeah.
there's an addict and it affects the family, and if you
Yes.
don't change behavior patterns on both ends, really,
that
it's
still
gonna,
is-
you're going to
I
have
mean,
the same
it's-
thing happening again.
Except for this, I don't think it's happening very much. All of the treatment centers say they do it, but I don't think there's a treatment center in Vermont that involves the family in any way.
yeah.
And that is something that's crucial,
Mhm.
absolutely crucial.
But it's like it's one thing to say you're doing it, and it's another thing to be able to do
They
it.
also say they're dual diagnosis, and yet when you get there, it's such a short program, there's no way they can be dual diagnosis. And if you start to say, well, I also have, oh, no,
Yeah,
don't
we're here to
open
treat
Pandora's
this
box,
part,
because
yeah.
we only have time for your addiction.
Yeah.
And if you can't get to the bottom of what's caused the addiction, whatever that other diagnosis is, then you really have a hard time figuring out how you're going to stay.
Do you see that changing though? Do you see that mindset changing? I mean, because I think that came from sort of the short-term treatment model that was really popular with insurance companies back in the.
Well,
I mean,
insurance companies
it's
driven.
insurance companies
Inpatient-
drove the treatment. They really
The
did.
inpatient model is getting shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It used to be longer, it's getting shorter and shorter, and the outpatient, our hub and spoke system is really where the
Where
money's
they-
going.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a good thing in my
It's
opinion.
good and bad, it
Yeah.
depends on, the person. I mean, some people can do that, but if it's their hometown, some people really need to get out, at least
Yes,
for a little
exactly,
while.
yeah.
And some people have tried the hub and spoke, if you're failing in the hub and spoke, and it's, you just OD'd in your hub and spoke, are you really just gonna go back to the hub and spoke and try again? Or
Yeah,
do you
yeah.
need to get out of town?
Something else, something different.
And is your 8-day stay somewhere else gonna do it for you? That's just about time to, detox. Is it gonna get
Well,
you any more than
that's
you
what
need?
I guess
Yeah.
that's what because I think the way the work you're doing and the way this treatment, whether you want to call it treatment or just recovery is evolving, I think is a healthy thing, because you're looking at a process that goes over a year and like you said, 8 days isn't going to do it, or 21
No.
days is not
No,
going to
we
do it.
need
They need to
big
have
time.
your level of
Right.
intervention, where they have
Right.
sort of some sort of wraparound or at least support for that time, because it takes a year to change a habit.
Right.
Even if
It does.
it's
It takes a long
if
time.
it's coffee or if it's anything, it takes a year.
And that's why I love programs like RISE and other programs like that, where people can choose to go, if they go to treatment for 8 days or however long they can get in, because RISE can ask for more time from the insurance company, so they can get up to, a few weeks. But then somebody can say, I don't want to go back to my town, I want to go to a RISE that's across the state.
Right.
And a lot of people are smart enough to do that, and they do, and it works
Yeah.
well for them.
Because I would think that would almost be for more than just a few people, it'd be better to change the environment. Because
Exactly.
if you go back to the same place you were and you see the same people and you're doing the same thing, it's gonna be hard to,
It's even harder to break
not
that
just
habit,
drop
yeah.
back into that old
Yeah,
habit.
to get sucked
Yeah.
back in.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, good.
We
We
are-
gotta hit,
We are at the end of our show almost.
but you have to tell us again, what exactly can people give that would be the most helpful?
So most helpful is we're looking for outerwear, warm clothing, and any
Men's
kind
and
of
women's, or just primarily men's at this point?
primarily men's, but we'll take women's too because we're working with multiple organizations.
Okay.
So there are
So
women's
you
things that we
make
can give
things
to too.
more-
Okay.
Yeah.
And also any kind of home goods that are not too large. So
Yeah.
we have storage
Yeah,
space
like,
for them.
like a
No
person might
dining
be
room
moving to
table.
an apartment or
Right,
something
they're
like that.
moving to an
So-
apartment
Yeah,
and
something you would need if you were.
Something you can, something bowls and
Yeah.
silverware and plates
And
and
So if
bring
you
it
had-
to your office at Parks Place, or you said you'll pick up. So
Mhm.
if they wanted to contact you, your phone number is?
my phone number is 802-451-8051.
Okay,
Perfect.
Okay?
great.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you,
much,
thanks for
Sarah.
coming
Appreciate
on.
it.
I'm
No
glad
problem.
everything worked out and we got our technical glitches done
We
and
did, we
and
did.
good. But thanks a lot.
Thank
And that's
you.
it for us this week on the feed. Have a great Thanksgiving and we'll
Yes.
see you next
See you
week.
next week, community.
For
Thank you.
for traditional cooking, I think. I think we're gonna do some
Are we
some
gonna do
Native
traditional cooking?
American
Okay.
cooking.
It'll be a
Wow.
surprise.
Yes, it should be. All right, that's it.
That's it, folks, for the feed. Be sure to catch us every Wednesdays at 7:30 a.m. Also, find us on Facebook at Fact TV or tell us what you think. thefeed8@gmail.com. And don't forget to watch the feed online at www.fact8.com.